Hello, I'm Courtney French. I'm the Commercial Fisheries Manager for Ørsted UK. I'm responsible for managing the relationship between Ørsted, commercial fisheries, and the fisheries strategy in Ørsted UK. Today I'm going to talk about how Ørsted manage coexistence with the fishing industry as an unrivaled leader within global offshore wind production. We have over 1,600 turbines currently installed in Europe, 12 operational wind farms in the UK, 1 currently under construction and 3 in development. In the UK, we do not only have to liaise with UK fishermen. Fishermen from other European nationalities actively fish within our waters, and so we have to liaise with a number of European fisheries stakeholders depending on where our project is situated. This slide shows VMS data from a number of national bodies, and the drawings are slightly outdated, but give an idea of the level of fishing activity and where the hotspots are for each nationality. The data only represents vessels over 15 metres long, and therefore it's a slight underrepresentation of fishing activity, but it's a good place to start at the concept of a project to determine who the relevant fisheries stakeholders are. Generally, the UK fishermen we interact with are smaller scale, nearshore vessels with a limited range, and the fisheries stakeholders from other European states generally operate larger vessels who have a larger range and fish slightly further offshore. There's no legislation within the UK to prevent fishermen from operating within the UK sites once they're operational. Nor do the UK government dictate on how fishermen should be compensated by a wind farm developer. Essentially, each developer is left to their own devices, and so it's key to establish a best practice approach across the portfolio. For example, in the UK, we're trying to push for evidence-based compensation payments only for the fishing industry. As you can see in this slide, the type of vessels that we have to coexist with range massively. So we have some small nearshore vessels which probably are undertaking potting or netting activity, and we also have large industrial scale fishing vessels from the likes of Denmark, potentially targeting sand eel or herring. In the UK Consents team, we have dedicated resource to look after fisheries issues. So myself and Laura work on all projects across all phases. This ensures a consistent approach for all fisheries, and we have insisted on an evidence-based approach to payments for moving out of the wind farm area during surveys and construction. More wind farms do mean more impacts on users of the sea and the seabed. However, we aim to be fair and to try and coexist with the fisheries where possible. There are definitely some future challenges. Increased competition for space and marine spatial planning isn't as mature as the offshore wind market. The UK government are also looking to introduce highly protected marine areas, and therefore there's obviously going to be an increased areas that are unavailable to fisheries, and therefore coexistence with offshore wind is even more important now than ever. Commercial fishermen are the major stakeholder group, and with offshore wind set to expand around the UK, communication with the fishing industry is more important now than ever. The UK Prime Minister announced plans to increase the UK's capacity for offshore wind, and many in the fishing industry didn't welcome the news. And as such, we feel at Ørsted it's our responsibility to give the fishing industry the reassurance that we can work together and showcase what works well. Having a commercial fisheries manager role at Ørsted highlights that the company understands the importance of building relationships with commercial fishermen and the requirement for coexistence with our projects from planning through to decommissioning. Early engagement is key when it comes to building good relations with the fisheries stakeholders. We encourage fisheries stakeholders to engage with the planning process as early as possible, because quite often we find that fishermen reach out once a project already has consent, and then it can be too late to feed their knowledge into the area, or for us to embed some mitigation to minimise our impacts on them. So in order to facilitate coexistence, we contract a fishing industry representative for each project. We also have commercial fisheries advisors. The fishing industry representatives are usually ex-fishermen or ex-fisheries authority, and therefore they already have a good relationship with the locals. They know the details of the fishing activity in the area, and obviously therefore they can help guide us on where we should target our consultation. The fishing industry representative is there to act as a conduit for free-flowing information exchange, both ways. We at Ørsted obviously understand that fishermen generally just want to go fishing. They don't work 9 till 5, and therefore we need to be flexible in our approach to communication to suit the fishing industry. We found that face-to-face meetings generally work best, and so that's a priority for us. We also have fishing industry groups such as the National Fishermen's Federation and the Holderness Fishing Industry Group, and having those industry groups make sharing of information more practical. The industry groups act as a single voice for the industry and convey the concerns of the fishermen. So having a good relationship with fisheries groups has proved to be invaluable for both industries. We're committed to working with the fisheries associations and individual fishermen to better understand how the two industries can work together and improve coexistence. So we've already taken a lot of lessons learned forward from our 16 projects and feed these in through industry groups such as FLOW, which is floating wind for offshore wind and wet. I have put in a link to FLOW in a couple more slides. We also utilise fishing vessels as guard vessels or pilot vessels, and we endeavour to have offshore fisheries liaison officers on survey and construction vessels as often as possible to facilitate quick and easy communications with the fishing industry whilst we have vessels offshore. So at Ørsted in the UK, we regard commercial fisheries coexistence as the joint presence of both industries in the same area of seabed. This can be achieved through systematic and timely approach to project planning. For example, we endeavour to undertake site investigation surveys outside of peak fishing seasons within that area wherever possible, and we only request fishing gear clearance where absolutely necessary in order to minimise impacts on the fishermen. Open and transparent communication is required from both sides. Therefore, the support and engagement of the local fishing industry is imperative. When we enter into the development phase of a project, the key is early consultation in order to determine the level of fishing activity in the area by who, and that allows us to keep the relevant people informed of project progress and request their feedback and input into the development of the project. During the construction phase, we enter into this regular engagement and can generally enter into evidence-based commercial agreements for those fishermen who have a demonstrable economic dependency on the wind farm area. These commercial agreements are generally established in line with the FLOW best practice guidelines. During the construction phase, we issue weekly notice of operations to keep fishermen up to date with our schedule, and contract offshore fisheries liaison officers to ensure productive discussions offshore. We found that having a designated person offshore for fisheries related discussion assists free-flowing communication and prevents potential health and safety risks to both parties. Also, when construction is complete, we share our as-installed infrastructure information with KISS Orca and the local fishermen in plotter format. we understand that fishermen have as much right to be actively fishing within the wind farm area as we do to be operating the wind farm sites, and therefore we emphasise the need to coexist with the fishermen for the lifetime of the project for 25 plus years. And therefore, investing in good relationships with the fishermen targeting our wind farms is of utmost importance to Ørsted and specifically the project site team. So as I said, in the UK, there's no legislation to prevent fishing from continuing within our operational wind farm sites. That is in contrast to some of our sites across Europe. And at present, there is some level of fishing activity within all of our UK wind farm sites. Potting is the most prevalent fishing activity within our sites, but we do have some mobile gear vessels actively targeting some of our sites too. So generally, as the turbines have become larger, the separation distances between the turbines has also become larger, and therefore that's assisting the resumption of mobile gear activity within the arrays. Good information sharing is key to successful fishing within the wind farms, and sharing of maintenance schedules, notice to mariners with a good amount of notice, and the fishermen also providing us with locations of their fishing gear. So generally we request that the fishermen who are actively fishing static gear pots within our sites provide us with the locations of their fishing gear. We also have fishing gear marker funds for the majority of our sites too, where we provide more visible gear markers to those fishermen actively targeting our wind farm sites in order to minimise the interaction with any vessels within our site. So in addition to individual cooperation payments, we also have undertaken some collaborative research. And our westernmost rough offshore wind farm project is sited within the most productive lobster fishing ground within Europe. And therefore, obviously, when we announced the development of the project, it wasn't welcomed by the fishing industry. There were lots of concerns raised, and so we worked with the Holderness Fishing Industry Group and have conducted studies to investigate the effects of a wind farm on the fishing activity in the area by examining the ecological effects on shellfish within the westernmost rough offshore wind farm. The data collected over a 7-year period has demonstrated that the local fishermen can continue to thrive within westernmost rough offshore wind farm with no significant difference between catch rate pre and post construction of the project. The study was the first of its kind to be conducted anywhere in the world, and it's proved significant value in easing the fishermen's concern about fishing inside a wind farm and just offshore wind development in general. So for more information on this study, you can watch the video, which is linked on the previous slide. I will give a brief overview of the study and how we did it and why it worked. So in addition to this 7-year study, we also have a number of other research projects with the Holderness Fishing Industry Group in the pipeline through a East Coast Research Fund. The purpose of this is to help better understand the impacts of offshore wind farms on commercial fisheries and hope to continue to showcase that coexistence between the commercial fishing industry and offshore wind is possible. So in addition, Ørsted have also contributed over £1 million to the West of Morecambe Fisheries Fund and the Gunfleet Sands Fisheries Fund. So these are community benefit funds, and the funds have aided the fishing industry with the likes of purchasing fuel facilities or ice machines, vehicles, refrigerated vans and tractors. We've funded safety courses, diversification projects, and we also part funded the construction of the Bridlington Lobster Hatchery and assisted some fisheries for getting MSC accreditation. And in addition to these research projects and schemes such as West of Morecambe Fisheries Fund, the Orsted Fisheries Stakeholder Team in the UK are also developing a marine litter reduction campaign. And throughout this campaign, we're working with the fishermen to assist them to be at the forefront of the fight against marine litter, while we help to build a world that runs entirely on green energy. I think the key messages here are that early engagement is key, and working together is key. So thank you for listening. If you've got any questions, then I will be available at the Q&A session. Thank you.